The capsule in the woods Ray lived a quiet life in the hills. He was a simple man, working from home, fixing computers, and living alone in a small wooden cabin near the forest. The air was clean, the nights were silent, and no one came to disturb him. But everything changed one cold night. It was 2:17 a.m. when Ray woke up to a strange sound. It was not thunder, not an animal, not anything he had ever heard before. It was like a low hum mixed with metal grinding. He sat up in bed, alert. The sound came again. This time, it was closer. He stepped outside with a flashlight. The air smelled like something had burned, like metal and ash. He looked up, but the sky was clear. No clouds, no lightning. Then he saw a faint blue light blinking deep inside the forest. Curious, Ray followed the light. He walked for 20 minutes. The forest was dark, cold, and still. Even the wind was silent. The blue light was getting brighter. Then he saw it. Half buried in the ground was a metal capsule. It was about the size of a small car, covered in dirt and glowing softly. The metal was smooth, without any marks or writing. It didn't look human-made. Ray's heart beat faster. He stepped closer and touched the capsule. It was warm, too warm for something lying in the cold soil. Suddenly, a line appeared on the surface. It glowed bright and a small door opened. With a hiss, Ray jumped back. Smoke came out of the capsule. A soft light lit the inside, and then he saw her, a child. Lying inside, she looked about 7 or 8 years old, but her skin was light gray, almost silver. Her hair was white, and her eyes were glowing blue. She was breathing, but very slowly. She had no wounds, no blood. Ray was frozen. Was she human? No, but she was alive. Suddenly, her eyes opened. She stared at Ray. Then she spoke. Ray. Ray's heart stopped for a second. How did she know his name? Who are you? He asked, voice shaking. The child tried to sit up. She looked weak but calm. You found me, she said. Ray looked around. Is someone else here with you? She shook her head. They sent me to you. You're the only one who can help. Ray didn't understand. Help? With what? Who sent? You? Before she could answer, the capsule made a loud beeping sound. Lights flashed red. The child looked at the capsule, then at Ray. They know I'm here, she said. We have to leave, now. Ray had so many questions, but something told him this was real, it was happening. He couldn't leave her there. He picked her up. Gently. She was light as a feather. The capsule's lights blinked faster now. Something was coming. Ray ran back through the forest, holding the strange child in his arms. The blue light of the capsule faded behind him. Back at his cabin, he placed her on the couch and gave her water. She didn't drink? You don't eat? Ray asked. She shook her head. Not like you. I need light. Ray looked at her glowing skin. Was she using energy? She sat up and looked around. This place is safe for now. Ray sat across from her. I want answers. Who are you? My name is Alara, she said. I am not from your world. I came here because you were chosen. Ray was confused. Chosen for what? Alara looked out the window. Her eyes glowed brighter. To stop them. Stop who? But Alara didn't answer. She touched the coffee table. A 3D hologram appeared. It showed a spinning planet, Earth, then showed something falling from the sky. A crash. A wave of destruction. Cities on fire. Ray stared in shock. This will happen, Alara said, unless we act together. Ray felt his world turning upside down. This morning, he was just a man in the woods. Now, he was holding an alien child who talked about saving the planet. Before he could speak, the lights in his cabin flickered and went out. The fridge stopped humming. His laptop turned black. Even his watch stopped ticking. EMP? Ray. Whispered. Elara stood up slowly. They are near. Ray looked out the window. The forest outside was still, but something moved between the trees. A dark shape. Watching. The child whispered, "They're not from your government. They're something worse." Ray felt fear rising. What do we do? Elara looked at him. We run, but first. You must remember. Remember what? She didn't answer. Outside, something made a sound. A mechanical click. Ray's world had changed forever, and this was only the beginning. The power was still. Out. Ray sat in silence, the alien child named Elara sitting across from him. Her glowing blue eyes were the only light in the dark room. Outside, the forest was still, but Ray could feel something out there. Watching. Waiting. Then she spoke. Again. I was not supposed to wake up here, Elara said, her voice soft but clear. Ray's voice trembled. Then why did you? She looked at him, tilting her head slightly. Because your timeline is breaking. What does that even mean? Ray whispered. Elara slowly stood and walked to the window. Her hand touched the glass. In my world, you were a hero, a fighter. You saved us once, but then you disappeared. You chose to forget. Ray shook his head. No, I'm just a man. I fix computers. I live in the woods. You were more, Elara said. You still are. You just forgot, and now you must remember. Suddenly, she lifted her hand and drew a glowing shape. In the air, a map appeared in bright blue light, floating like magic. Ray stepped closer. What is that? It's a memory, she said. Yours, or it was. The map showed mountains, rivers, and symbols Ray didn't recognize except one thing. A red dot blinked on the edge of a lake nearby. Ray felt a chill. He had seen that place before. In his dreams. I don't understand any of this, Ray said, frustrated. You speak like I'm someone important, but I'm not. Elara turned to him. You will be. At that moment, the silence outside broke. A sharp, strange sound cut through the night, a mechanical whine followed by a heavy thud. Then another. Then another. Footsteps. Not human. Elara's eyes glowed brighter. They've found us. Ray grabbed his flashlight, but it was still dead. Everything electric was. What did they want? He asked. Me, she said, and maybe you, but not alive. Ray looked out the window. Shadows moved between the trees, tall, smooth, cold. No face. No eyes. Just shapes. Elara, we need to hide, Ray said. She walked toward the door. No, we need to move. But how? They'll see us. She raised her hand and snapped her fingers. The air shimmered around them like heat on a summer road. Suddenly, Ray couldn't hear the footsteps anymore. The cabin felt invisible. What did you do? Ray asked. A small cloak. It won't last long, Elara said, but long enough. Ray looked at the floating map again. Is this where we need to go? Elara nodded. The place you hid it. Hid what? She didn't answer. They left the cabin quietly. The trees around them were darker than before. The sky was cloudy. No stars in sight. Ray carried a small bag, but Elara carried nothing, only the memory in her mind. As they moved through the woods, Elara told him stories. Stories of a war in the stars. Of planets that once lived, now gone. Of a man, a human, who stood between destruction and peace. That man, she said, was you? Ray didn't believe it. He couldn't. But somewhere inside, a small voice whispered, what if it's true? They walked for miles. The night stretched on. Somewhere behind them, machines searched. Ray could feel the danger, closer and closer. Then they reached the lake. It was quiet. The water was still like glass. Alara stood at the edge, closed her eyes, and placed her hand in the water. The lake began to ripple. From the middle of the water, something rose, a small metal sphere shining with blue light. It hovered toward them. Ray stared, stunned. "What is that?" "A piece of you," Alara said. The sphere floated into Ray's hands. As he touched it, something shot through his mind. Flashes. Spaceships. A great battle. A voice screaming his name, and his own face, older, braver, covered in alien armor. Ray fell to his knees. The images were too much. Alara knelt beside him. "Now you see," Ray breathed hard. What did I do?" "You saved us," she said. "But you paid a price. You hid your past. You came to Earth to forget." Ray looked at the sphere, still glowing in his hand. "Can I stop them again?" he asked. Alara smiled softly. "Only if you choose to remember everything." Behind them, the forest lit up. The machines had found the cabin. It exploded in flames. Ray stood up, holding the sphere tight. They had no home now. Only the road ahead. But for the first time, Ray wasn't afraid. This was just the beginning. Ray had always thought danger came with noise. Explosions, sirens, screams. But now, danger was silent. He and Alara moved through the morning mist, walking along the edges of quiet hills. The air was thick and heavy. Behind them, their cabin had been turned to ashes. And someone was still following. Not with guns. Not with helicopters. With machines that didn't make a sound. They're called the Null, Alara said as they stopped to rest beside a small stream. They don't speak. They don't think. They just hunt. Ray looked at her. "Why are they after you?" Alara lowered her head. "Because I'm not supposed to exist anymore." Ray didn't know how to answer that. He looked around. Everything felt wrong. Even the birds were quiet. No wind, no animal sounds. Just silence, and that silence felt like a warning. Ray stood up. "We need help. A car. A phone, something." Alara shook her head. "Anything electric they can trace." That's how they found the cabin. Ray felt helpless. "So what do we do?" Alara pulled something small from her sleeve. It looked like a silver coin, smooth and glowing slightly. She handed it to Ray. "Put this behind your ear," she said. He did that. Suddenly, his ears filled with static and then voices, whispers, hundreds of them. Some in English, some not. "What is this?" Ray asked, stunned. "Echoes of the past," Alara replied. "Memories they erased. You were part of them." Ray pulled the coin out, shaking. "It's like a storm inside my head." "You'll get used to it," she said. But before Ray could respond, he heard something, not from the coin, but from the forest. Click. A small sound. Then another. Ray turned slowly. Far between the trees, he saw it. A tall, thin figure. Silver and black. No eyes, no face. Just a smooth helmet, reflecting the trees. It was scanning the area, standing still as a statue. Ray whispered, "Is that one of them?" Alara didn't speak. She just grabbed his hand. The two ran, but the figure heard. It moved, not walking but sliding, fast, smooth, silent. Ray and Alara ran downhill through the brush. Branches hit their faces. Their feet slipped on the wet leaves. But the hunter was gaining. "Alara!" Ray shouted. "Do something!" Alara stopped. She turned. Her hands glowed blue. She raised them, and the trees between them and the machine bent and twisted, blocking its path. For a moment, everything was still. Then, boom! The trees were blown apart. The machine was through. Ray's heart raced. "We can't outrun it forever." Alara pointed. "That way? A town is near." They reached a road. An old truck was parked on the side, its owner fixing a tire. Ray ran up, panting. Please, we need a ride. Someone is chasing us. The man looked up. Whoa, slow down, what's going on? Ray didn't have time to explain. Alara looked at the man and placed her hand on his arm. Her eyes glowed. Drive, she said calmly. Fast, the man blinked once. Then, without another word, he opened the truck doors. They jumped in. The truck sped down the road, bouncing over gravel. Behind them, in the mirror, Ray saw the machine. It stepped onto the road and then it disappeared. Where did it go? Ray asked. Alara looked out the window. It's adapting. Ray stared at her. How do we fight something like that? You can't, not yet, she said. But we can buy time. They reached the small town. People were walking around, laughing, shopping, unaware that something inhuman had just crossed into their world. Alara pulled her hood up. They don't know what's coming. Ray looked around. Maybe we should tell someone. No one will believe you, Alara said. And if they try to help, they'll die. Ray swallowed hard. They walked into an old building, a library. Alara said, This place is quiet. I can show you more. They went to the basement. Ray followed her to the back wall. She touched one brick and the wall opened like a door. Behind, it was a room with alien markings. A hollow screen lit up on its own. How do you know about this place? Ray asked. Alara said quietly, You brought me here once. Before you erased yourself. Ray's breath caught. This was mine? She nodded. And inside this room is your truth. The screen glowed. A face appeared. It was Ray, older, hard, battle-worn, and the recording spoke. If you're watching this, it means they've found her. And you don't remember who you are. Listen carefully. Earth is next. And you're the only one left who can stop it. Ray backed away. Alara looked at him. It's time, Ray. He stared at his own face on the screen, frozen in time. And in that moment something inside him began to unlock. Ray didn't sleep that night, not because he wasn't tired, his body begged for rest, but because he couldn't. The recording of his own face kept playing in his mind. A version of him he didn't remember. A version that looked like a soldier, not a quiet man from the woods. Alara sat beside the wall, her back against the cold stone. Her eyes, still glowing faint blue, were closed. But Ray knew she wasn't sleeping either. Outside, the world was still normal. People were buying coffee. Kids were going to school. Cars moved. Phones rang, but something had already changed. Ray stared at the alien room hidden beneath the library. Symbols floated in the air like holographic dust. Some he recognized, though. He didn't know why. Others pulsed with a sound only his chest could hear. It wasn't noise. It was a memory. Trying to come back, he turned to Alara. Tell me the truth. Who was I, really? Alara opened her eyes. You were a guardian, she said softly. Not just of me, but of many worlds. That sounds impossible, Ray said. But it's not, she replied. You gave up everything to save me. To save us. Ray ran his hand through his hair. And I forgot it all? No, Alara said. You chose to forget. Ray looked at her in disbelief. Why would I do that? She stood now. Because you couldn't live with what you did. Before Ray could ask more, the holographic wall lit up. A circular platform in the center rose slowly. Something was inside. Ray stepped closer. It was a suit, not armor. Not a weapon. Something between worlds. It glowed softly, silver and blue, with veins of light running through its design. It pulsed with his heartbeat. This was yours, Alara said. It's locked to your DNA. Ray looked at it. His hands trembled. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel like a guardian. He felt scared. If I put that on, I become him again? No, Ilara said. You become you again. Suddenly, a sound broke the quiet low. And deep like a horn in a cave, the walls shook. The lights flickered. Ilara's eyes turned wide. They found us. Ray turned toward the steps. Wait, there's something else, Ilara said. She held out a small cube. It looked simple, but Ray could feel power coming from it. This is your memory core, she said. It holds everything. Who you were, what you knew, what you lost. He reached for a dot, then stopped. Wait, if I open it, will I lose who I am now? Ilara didn't answer right away. Yes, she said quietly. The man you are now, he might disappear. You'll become him again. Ray looked at the suit, then at his own shaking hands. He had a choice. Stay as he was quiet, peaceful, unsure, or become the person he once was, strong, powerful, but carrying pain he couldn't yet understand. The walls shook again. Crack appeared in the stone. They didn't have time. Ray looked at the suit. He looked at Ilara, and he looked at the cube. What would you choose? He asked her. Ilara stepped forward. You once told me something. That courage isn't about having no fear. It's about choosing to act even when you are afraid. Ray held the cube tighter. Then he took a deep breath, and he made his choice. He placed the cube against his chest. There was a flash of light. Appa! Scream of wind. And then silence. Ray stood still. His eyes slowly opened. But now, they glowed bright and blue, just like Ilara's. Memories flooded. In battles, galaxies, love, loss, victory. He remembered everything, but he also remembered why. He gave it up. Because once he had made a mistake, a big one. He had trusted the wrong people. He had cost lives. And to save Ilara, to protect her, he had erased himself. Now, that memory was back. And the pain was real, but this time he wouldn't run. He turned to Ilara. I remember, she smiled. Then we're ready. Ready for what? To finish what you started. Suddenly, the wall behind them exploded. Dust flew everywhere. A tall shadow stepped in, one of the Null Hunters. But this time, Ray didn't run. He stepped forward. The suit wrapped around him like light-forming armor. He raised his hand, and the hunter froze. Ray clenched his fist. The machine shattered like glass. Ray looked down at his hand. It's time, he whispered. And this time, it wasn't fear he felt. It was purpose. It didn't feel like power. It felt like weight. As the suit fused with Ray's body, it didn't lift him, it buried him. With every memory that returned, his chest felt heavier. He could feel the armor adjusting to his heartbeat. He could feel the planet around him, the vibrations in the air, the cold of space just beyond the sky, the watchers above. This wasn't just advanced tech. This was alive. Ray stood still in the broken basement of the library. Dust floated around him. The Null Hunter was gone, destroyed by a single thought. But now, Ray wasn't sure if that was strength or a warning. Ilara stepped toward him, careful. Her voice was softer than ever. Do you remember everything now? Ray didn't speak. He turned his head slowly, as if learning to breathe again. Remember the wars, he said at last. I remember the star cities. I remember losing them. I remember you. As a baby, wrapped in a blanket of light. Ilara nodded. You were the one who carried me away. You were marked for death, Ray continued. But you were the last of your kind. And I couldn't let them kill a child. For something she never did. He looked down at his hands. They were human hands, wrapped in light and metal. But they shook like a human's too. Ray whispered, but I also remember the thing I did to stop them. You had no choice, Ilara said. There's always a choice, he replied. Ray turned toward the glowing platform in the center of the room. Another piece of tech had emerged. A tall ring pulsing with slow, rhythmic energy. What is it? he asked. It's called the Gate of Threads, Ilara replied. It connects minds across versions of reality. It's how they tracked you. Ray took a step back. You mean they didn't just follow me here? They followed every version of me? Yes, Ilara said. They're not just chasing you through space. They're chasing you through time. Ray looked at her, stunned. Then Earth is in more danger than we thought, Ilara nodded. Earth is the last clean slate. If they infect this version of reality, it won't end with this planet. Ray felt a pulse inside the armor, a memory surface flashing like a nightmare. He saw the moment he had launched the final weapon, a black sun, cracking a planet in half. He saw himself fall to his knees after screaming. Not in victory, in shame, because the weapon hadn't only destroyed the enemy, it had taken innocence too. Ray whispered, I killed too many. Ilara said nothing. She knew, but then she stepped forward. You also saved billions, including me. She reached into her coat and pulled out a thin silver shard, almost like a key. This is what they want, she said. It's not just a tracker. It's a seed. A piece of their network. Ray stared at it. You've had it this whole time? They put it in me when I was born, she said, to track me, to control me. But my mother smuggled it out of their system. That's why they sent you, Ray blinked. To protect you? To destroy me, she said. The truth hit him like cold steel. Ray hadn't come to Earth to save Elara. He had come here to kill her before the network could reach Earth. But in the last second, he'd made a different choice. He'd erased himself. Made himself human. To start again. Ray stepped forward. If I destroy that seed, can we stop them? Ilara looked away. We don't know. It's part of something bigger now. Ray turned to the Gate of Threads. If I go through that gate, what happens to me? Ilara answered slowly. You'll face the other yous, the ones who didn't run. Some are broken. Some are monsters. Some are already dead. Ray closed his eyes. This suit gives me power, but it doesn't give me peace. Ilara said, that's because peace doesn't come from forgetting. It comes from facing it all, and still choosing to protect what matters. Ray opened his eyes, and, for the first time, they didn't glow. They burned. He took the shard in one hand, stepped onto the platform, and looked back at Ilara. Stay hidden. If I don't come back in 1 hour, run. Ilara's voice cracked. Ray, he gave her a small smile. Not heroic, not brave, just human. Don't worry, he said. I've met me before. The Gate of Threads lit up like a second. Sun. And then Ray stepped through, into the storm. The light swallowed him whole. Ray felt like he was falling, but there was no wind, no sky, no ground. Just white. Endless, silent white. Then his feet touched something, not a floor. Not a surface, but something that let him stand. He looked around. Nothing. No sounds, no colors, no time, until a voice, his own. Back again? Ray turned fast. Another man stood there. Same face, same body. But the eyes were colder, sharper, dressed in battle. Armor soaked in ash. Ray stepped back. Who are you? The other Ray smiled. I'm the you who didn't forget. Suddenly, the white space shifted, exploding into a battlefield. Charred trees, black smoke. Bodies, human and alien, frozen mid-fall. Ray spun around in shock. He was standing in a memory. His memory. The other. Ray walked through the ash. This is what you ran from. The price of saving worlds. It's not just fire and glory. It's guilt. Ray stared at a small body on the ground, a child. Eyes open, silent. His knees weakened. I didn't mean to, but you did. The other. Ray said. And then you ran. You came to Earth, hid in the woods, chopped firewood, slept alone, pretended to be small. Ray clenched his fists. I had no choice. The world changed again. Now, a throne room, shining floors, towering glass windows looking into stars. Another Ray stood there, taller, older, glowing with alien energy. This version wore robes of command. You could have ruled, the third Ray said. You had peace in your hands, but you chose to protect one child instead. Ray looked up. That child is everything. The robed Ray laughed softly. And how many others died for her? Ray's voice rose. She's not just a child. She's the last key to stopping them. She's the future. Again, the world shifted. Now a mirror room. Ray stood in the center, surrounded by hundreds of versions of himself. Some wore armor. Some wore chains. Some had blood on their hands. Some had no face at all. They whispered all at once. Coward. Savior. Killer. Protector. Too late. Too early. Wrong Ray. Ray covered his ears. Stop. The mirrors cracked. Silence again. Then one final voice spoke softer than all the rest. A voice from his childhood. You always wanted to be the good guy, didn't you? Ray turned. A small boy stood before him. Maybe 6 or 7. Wearing a hoodie, dirt on his face, scared but curious. Ray whispered, Who are you? The boy smiled. I'm who you were before the wars. Before the choices. Ray knelt down. And what do you want me to do? The boy looked up at him. Don't choose to forget again. Suddenly, everything vanished. Ray gasped. He was back. Back. In the real world. The gate of threads behind him, still glowing faintly. His armor had changed. It was no longer bright and polished. It was rough, scratched, worn, real. Ilara stood there wide-eyed. You were gone for hours. To me. Ray said, It felt like years. She stepped closer. What did you find? Ray looked at her. Not what, he said. Who? He placed his hand on his chest. I found every version of myself. Some were strong, some were broken, some were terrifying. Ilara said nothing. But now, Ray continued, I know which one I have to be. Suddenly, the ground shook. The sky outside darkened unnaturally. Ilara ran to the window. A rift had opened in the clouds, dark and humming like a storm. Made of metal. She turned back to Ray. They're not just sending hunters this time. Ray's voice was calm. They're sending everything. Ilara looked afraid for the first time. Then this is the end. Ray looked at her, and his voice was steady. No, he said. This is the moment we begin again. The sky was breaking, not with fire, not with sound, but with a strange silence, like the world was holding its breath. Ray stood on the rooftop of a tall building, his armor pulsing with quiet energy. Below him, people were running. Alarms blared. The news screamed warnings, but none of it mattered anymore, because above them, in the torn sky, the enemy had arrived. Not one ship, not 2. A fleet, a black swarm. Moving like it had one mind, Ray didn't blink. He remembered now. This was always how it was going to end, not with a gun, not with a scream, but with a choice. Behind him, Ilara stepped forward, holding the glowing shard, the seed they'd taken from her. Her hands were shaking. It's spreading, she whispered. The seed is waking the grid. They'll rewrite Earth in minutes. Ray nodded. Unless we stop it. There's only one way, she said. You already know it. He did. Destroy the shard. But to do that, Ray had to give up the suit, because the suit was connected to the grid, to the system, to the war. If he stayed bonded to it, if he stayed the hero, they'd use that signal to keep coming. But if he let it go, the system would lose its key, and Earth would fall off their map. Ray smiled slightly. The price of peace, he said, always heavier than war. Ilara reached for his hand. If you let go of the suit, you'll lose all of it again. The memories, the strength, even me. Ray looked into her glowing eyes. No, he said. I'll keep the part. That matters. He took a deep breath, and then he removed the core. The armor cracked, like glass breaking. Piece by piece, it fell from his body, vanishing into light. First the chest, then the arms, the mask, the boots. Until all that stood was a man, just Ray. Human, unarmed, but not weak, because this time he wasn't running from who he was. He was choosing it. He held the shard in his bare hand. It burned. It screamed in a language no one could hear, but Ray didn't let go. He whispered something soft. I remember now. And then he crushed it. The light burst upward like a second sun. Across the sky, the swarm froze midair. Ships blinked. Out, beam shut off. The storm stopped. And the enemy vanished. Just like that. As if the planet had been erased from their list. As if Earth no longer existed in the system. The quiet returned. The wind blew gently. Birds flew again, and Ray collapsed. Elara rushed forward, caught him before he hit the ground. His eyes were closed, no armor. No light. Just breath. Faint. But there. You did it, she whispered, holding him close. You chose to be human, and that saved us. 1 year later, the world didn't talk about it. Not in public. Anyway, the sky storm? Blamed on satellites? The blackout? A global glitch. No one remembered the ships, but some people felt it deep inside, like a dream they couldn't fully recall. In a small town, in a quiet school, a teacher handed out notebooks to her class. One girl in the back, maybe 8 years old, opened hers and began to draw. Not flowers. Not superheroes, but him, a tall figure in silver light. One hand open, one hand closed. She smiled quietly, then whispered to herself, he'll return when we need him again. The wind blew outside. Gentle. But watching